Well, prior to being a financial advisor in New Zealand, I actually spent about 15 years in London, about 10 of which were working for a very large global investment manager. I absolutely loved my time there and feel very fortunate to have had that experience because it gave me a very strong or sort of good technical knowledge of investing and finance. But it also gave me quite a good appreciation of what best practice financial advice looks like, sort of internationally. I made the transition out of the corporate world and moved into private client advice in 2018, really because it allows me to spend my time engaged in the work that I really enjoy, helping people understand investing and money and implementing strategies to help people achieve their objectives. I've always been of the view that people are massively underserved from a financial education perspective. And being in a position to empower people with that knowledge and help them understand money and help them take a professional approach to their financial affairs, it's really, really rewarding. Well, I think probably the best thing about working as an advisor is really the relationships we get to form with people. It's such a privilege to be held in a position of trust and to get to hear people's unique stories, understand what's important to them, how they got to where they are, what their aspirations are for the future. The reality is things almost never go to plan, be it market fluctuations, economic shifts, unexpected life events. All of these things can quite easily knock us off course. But when you work with a professional who kind of understands your situation and you have a robust plan in place, it's much easier to stay the course and ultimately make better financial decisions. Well, one of the primary areas I focus on in advice is working with senior professionals, often from within the legal and accounting world. In particular, I work with a lot of accounting and legal partners, as well as independent barristers, members of the judiciary, that sort of thing. And I've worked in a pretty demanding environment in London myself, and in my experience, professionals operating at a really high level in their own careers, are typically quite time poor and can really benefit from adopting a structured and disciplined approach to the management of their wealth. The expectations on individuals operating, for example, at the partnership level at a top-tier law firm or a Big Four accounting practice, they're really high, those expectations, and as a result, it's not that uncommon for people to actually neglect their own financial affairs. So engaging with a professional advisor, I think it's a bit like having a kind of personal CFO in place. Ensures you dedicate the appropriate level of attention to your own financial health, which ultimately leads to much better outcomes. I've also spent quite a lot of my career working with people who've experienced what we'd call a sudden wealth event. This can be the result of something exciting, like the sale of some shares or the sale of a business, or it can often come from a more challenging situation, like the inheritance from the death of a loved one, or perhaps a settlement from a divorce. I think in any case, the implications of coming into money suddenly can be a lot to deal with, and counterintuitively can actually generate a lot of stress. I think in almost all of these situations, the best thing to do is to pause, take some time to reflect on your new situation, and then build a considered strategy that prioritizes what's important to you so that you can make better financial decisions that ultimately align with your objectives. So I grew up in Christchurch, where I went to school before heading off to Otago University. Following uni, headed off to London, where I spent about 15 years. Just before heading home in 2018, I met my English wife, Sophie, who I managed to convince to move home with me. We now have two daughters, a 2.5-year-old called Hazel, and a little new addition called Olive, who's about 8 weeks old. I think family is probably the most important thing to me. Those with young kids probably know we don't have a lot of spare time, but whatever time we do have, Soph and I both have a love for the ocean, so we spend a lot of our time outdoors, out on a little boat that we own with a few friends, and wherever possible we try to make our way to our family home in the Marlborough Sounds, which is kind of my happy place.